welcome to Tammy's Ribbon Kitchen. I know it's been a while since I posted, so I'm very excited to get started today on some cinnamon buns. I hope you enjoy. All right, so I've got all my ingredients together for the dough, so I'm going to just get started on that now. So to start, I'm going to add 6 cups of flour. I used 4 cups of spelt flour and 2 cups of all-purpose flour. I'm going to add that to my food processor. And then you want to make sure your water is nice and warm. So I've got my water here, about 2.5 cups of water, quarter cup of margarine. So I'm going to add the yeast and salt in next. So I've got a tablespoon of yeast and about 1 1/4 teaspoons of salt. I'm going to get that in there. And I've got 1/8 cup of some coconut sugar. Going to help the dough to rise. Oh, that was wonderful. Joys of cooking, I guess. You never really know what's going to happen in the kitchen, and it doesn't really matter. So get that blended up, and then we're going to add the 2.5 cups of water and the 1/4 cup of margarine. I'm going to put the lid back on and give it a blend. As you can see, the dough is coming out really nice. You do want to blend bread dough a little longer. So let's see how it is. Yeah, it looks really nice actually. I'm going to just blend it up a little, few more seconds. All right, and now for the fun part. Just take it out of your food processor onto a floured surface. You can get it out. A little sticky. I maybe should have added a little bit more flour, but I'll show you. In that case, I'll just add a little more while it's on my it's just on my counter. So I'm just going to knead this dough a little bit more. It's really good actually. Just a little bit tough to get out of the food processor. That's perfect. So spread the dough on spread the flour on your counter. You're going to have it all over soon, but we'll just let this rest for maybe a minute or two. And then we'll be rolling it out, making the cinnamon buns. All right, guys, just while my dough sits for a minute, I've melted some butter, about half a cup, and now I'm going to put in the brown sugar. Now, this mixture I put in the bottom of the pan, so they're a little extra gooey. So we want to add another probably half a cup of brown sugar, and then I'll show you. So just mix it all up. So it makes about a cup in total, once you add your margarine and then your butter. Now what I'm going to do is just pour it in my pan. And then I'll spread that out. It's good to do this before you get your hands all dirty with the cinnamon buns. Just get your pan ready, so then you can just pop them right in after. And then just spread that around in your pan. It's nice and even. Doesn't have to be perfect, but try and get it fairly even in the pan. Work that in. That should be good. All right, so then when your cinnamon buns are ready, your pan's all ready. So I'm just gonna set that aside. All right, so now the fun rolling part. Make sure your surface is nice and floured. You don't have problems later when you're trying to roll them out. You're going to want to punch it down to a rectangle shape. So then once you start rolling, that's what you're going to be focused on, is having a rectangle going on. Now this recipe will probably make, I think 16 I'm going to try and fit in that pan. Last time I had a few extras, but I'm going to try and make them a little bit deeper this time. So you can just roll up your dough to a nice rectangle, and I like to roll this very, very thin. To me, the thinner the better when it comes to my cinnamon rolls, because I like lots of layers inside. So you're going to have a fairly big piece. So this length here is going to determine how many cinnamon buns, and the width will determine how many rolls, like how many rolls you get inside your cinnamon bun. Pretty good thickness, I think. And it doesn't have to be perfectly rectangle. Of course, you're going to have a few that aren't going to be exact. All right, that seems to be a little better for you guys to see what's going on. Now I've got about a 3/4 cup of butter. I'm just going to spread on the dough. You don't have to melt it this much. I just happen to be in the microwave a little bit longer. It's not a big deal though. You can melt it if you like. I will be getting my hands in here soon. But for the butter, just spread it out like this. Spread it out on all the edges except this edge here. The edge towards you, just leave about an inch or so without filling your butter in. You don't need it right to that edge. All right. now we'll get the brown sugar going. Honestly, I don't measure this out when I normally do it, but I will for you guys so I get a proper amount for the recipe. I'm just going to go half cups at a time, and then I'll start spreading it out. Yeah, it's a lot of sugar, but hey, these are cinnamon buns. I love sugar. Let's say about almost 2 cups, but that's good. All right, now for this spreading. So just spread that brown sugar all over the dough. Looks like we may need just a little bit more on the edge, so yeah, it'll be about 2 cups. I'm just going to do this. I'm going to just dump the rest as well. No one said these were healthy, but damn, they're good. Okay, just give my hands a little rinse. Get the cinnamon. Now for the cinnamon time. Now honestly, my all-time favorite cinnamon is the Watkins cinnamon. If you guys have ever heard of Watkins, I love it for the cinnamon buns, but I haven't had it for a while. So I'm just using my Nicholas Clubhouse. Now I do not measure this, so as you can see, you want to put a fair amount of cinnamon. It would be cinnamon buns if you didn't. I'm assuming it's probably probably a couple tablespoons for sure. All right, so there's that, and now it's time to roll. So I want to show you. It's important that you start, let's see, yeah. Okay. All right, so you start your roll. I start in the middle and work my way to the edges, the sides, and just start doing little folds, little folds. So you want to get that nice and tight up first. The middle of a cinnamon bun is absolutely my favorite, and this is probably why. Yeah, so you want to hold the dough nice and tight and just make your way up and down the roll. Just kind of have to pull it back and then towards you. You know, it's like that action. Pull it back and then towards you a little bit. The middle always ends up being a tiny bit bigger. And then you just want to work it all the way to the edge. And instead of pulling it out this way, try and bring your dough in so you're not making it extra long and skinny. You know, you want it to be fairly uniform. Mine aren't always. Last time they weren't too bad, but I did have an extra pan of some smaller ones, and that's okay. Sometimes, well, the smaller ones were actually really good and crunchy. Now I want you to see the edge there. Let's show you here. So as you get to the edge, just kind of pull it, keep pulling it and pressing it back, and then down into the edge of your bowl. I can tell already this is a little bigger than the last time I made, so I may have a few more. That's okay. I just will have to probably melt some more butter for a pan. All right. You see how nice and long that is? Now I'm going to grab a knife. What I do, so I'm planning on about 16 in that pan. So you want to do half, and then another half. So that would, let's see, another half. So that would be like 4 cinnamon buns per section, right? See how that works. It might be fairly big that way. I think we can do 5, so I'm going to have more for this recipe, but that's good. So cutting them about, I would say a little over 1 inch thick. You want them fairly uniform so they do cook nice and even. So now with these end ones, yeah, I'm gonna go with, again, we're getting 5, so I'm gonna get 20. All right, so now it's time to get them in the pan. I'm just gonna give my counter a little wipe here so I can get my pan down onto the counter. So if I'm going 20, I should do 4 and 5, but I don't think they're all gonna fit. So let's do this. I'll do 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I think we're gonna go with 4. We'll squeeze them in there. It's not gonna hurt. And then, so what I do start in the middle and put them in the pan, because as they get out towards the edge, they do get a little smaller, so you want them fairly uniform for your pan. So I'm just taking the bigger ones first, and then we'll work with the smaller ones probably in another pan after. All right, and you can always push them down too, so they are uniform. I always just kind of eyeball what sizes are gonna kind of fit better. Okay, and then I press them down. And there we go. Now those are ready to rise, and then they'll be going in the oven. As you can see, I've got 4 small ones left, so I will get these into a smaller pan. So here the cinnamon buns are just going to rise now. I am going to cover them up with a wet tea towel, and they will rise for an hour. And then my oven will be preheating to 375, but I won't do that till there's about 10 minutes left in the rising. Alright, so while the cinnamon buns are rising, I'm just going to make the cream cheese icing. So here I have 3 cups of icing sugar, some vanilla, Earth Balance vegan butter, some Daya plain cream cheese, and that's just my butter. I left you the container so you can see what kind I use. And I'm going to use this half pack that's left. It's probably about half of a cup. And it's all going to just go in the food processor here, and I'll show you what it looks like after. Tasty. I'm going to work on getting all that out once I'm done doing this for you. That's a nice consistency. You have to drizzle that over your cinnamon buns. and it's so good. My son actually said the icing tastes like the Dunkaroos. You know, used to get the little packs of Dunkaroos when the kids were little. Those are so good. I love that Dunkaroo icing. Probably so bad for you though. Anyway, a little bit once in a while, hey? So there's the icing that's gonna go on the cinnamon buns after. So I'm just gonna set that into the fridge while the cinnamon buns rise and then bake. So the cinnamon buns rose for about an hour, and I'm going to pop them in the oven now. I'm gonna leave this small dish out until the big one is finished up, but this is what they look like before they go in the oven. Almost ready to come out of the oven. 4 more minutes. And fresh out of the oven. Still sizzling away. So let them cool down a couple minutes, and then I will be putting them on some parchment paper. Just dumping the whole pan out, but I do have to let the butter and sugar mixture cool down before I do that. You can see now how it's calmed right down. All the butter and everything's taming down. They smell amazing. All right, now I'm going to show you how I flip them out onto the parchment paper. I did take a spatula and go around the edges just to make sure nothing was stuck. And there was just a couple little parts that may have stuck, and then you're gonna have a ripped cinnamon bun, so make sure you do that. And now, just take the edges for your flip. And all that ooey gooey butter is going to be all over the bottom of your cinnamon buns. Now there will be some left over. This isn't working too well. So there you go. I'll just scrape the pan a little bit more. And another note too, do not put your glass pan into the sink with water right away. Make sure it does cool right down before you pour any water in it. Otherwise it may shatter. I have had that happen once, so just a side note. And there you go. There are our yummy cinnamon buns, and I will show you as soon as they cool how we ice them with the cream cheese icing. Alright, so these have cooled down slightly. So now it's just time to flip them over. Figure I may as well show you what I do. So the bottom side's going to be nice and gooey, and we're going to do the top with the icing. There we go. Now for the icing. Still not too solid or cold, but it's perfect. So this is what the icing looks like. And now it's time to just put it on the top of each one. Make sure there's going to be enough for all of them. And then I still have that little pan in the oven, so make sure we have enough for those ones too. Last time it made just enough for all of them, so I like to put Put it on a little sparingly first, and then if there's extra, then we can put extra. You guys enjoyed this video. I've always loved making cinnamon buns. I've made them pretty much my whole life, but always changing up the recipe, especially once we went vegan. So, you know, reminiscing about, there's a lot of ice in there. It's just nice, you know, knowing that there's no eggs or any other harm in making these. So yeah, I kind of let the icing just do its thing. They don't have to be perfect by all means. And there will be just enough left for those other ones. All right. I might sprinkle a little bit of cinnamon on them. And then I'll just let them cool, and then they'll go in the fridge, the freezer. They freeze really well too. If you do put them in the freezer, just store them in an airtight container, and then when you take them out, you can just put them in the microwave for about 20 seconds or maybe 30 if they're solid. So there you have it. Cinnamon buns are all done. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, I hope you give it a big thumbs up, and if you haven't already, please subscribe.